thinking about it now and what could have happened is really hard.
There are no rentals available, not for low-income people like myself.
The Loire is the largest river in France, and it makes me very sad to see its dried up bed. Natural disasters attack our planet daily. We hear about more and more climate refugees and understand that in countries with a low standard of living, governments are not able to protect their citizens. Each new disaster makes these countries even poorer and people more miserable. And how are the things going in prosperous, rich countries with supposedly strong economies? Can people there be sure that they will be promptly rescued in case of an emergency, compensated for the loss of property, and helped to return to their former familiar life? It turns out that the answer is no. The way many ordinary Australians had to survive after the floods in February-March 2022 is a clear confirmation of this. Thousands of households have become uninhabitable in the state of New South Wales. But now, months later, the promise to provide asylum to all those in need remains unfulfilled.
I'd settle for a roof over my head, somewhere warm and dry, for me and my little dog, that's all. There are no rentals available, not for low-income people like myself.
Having set out to build 350 million worth of extended stay capsule facilities, they have not even built half of them yet. Deprived of shelter and warm clothes, flood victims were forced to huddle in tents during the winter cold, sleep in cars, and some returned to their ruined and moldy houses in the hope of somehow insulating them to keep warm.
No one should be living in a house like this, but that's our only option, short of a tent. And in the winter, mold is better than cold.
Parliamentary investigation found that the State Emergency Service, SES, and the NSW, Government's Disaster Management Agency, Resilience NSW, failed to provide adequate assistance to the victims. People had no choice but to save their own lives and help others to save theirs. This is a wonderful example of mutual assistance and, at the same time, a demonstration of the complete failure of the official authorities. Government agencies and the Bureau of Meteorology were unprepared for such floods and did not realize their magnitude. The data they published was inaccurate, and the state government viewed the disaster response as a normal 9-to-5 work operation. Residents of the flooded areas faced a severe shortage of funds to pay their rent. But out of 1,200 applicants, hardly 1 in 5 received a rental subsidy. This prompted Commission of Enquiry Chairman Walt Seckholt to call this subsidy scheme a cruel hoax. Increased flooding provoked a general housing crisis. Market mechanisms are indifferent to the fate of individuals and lead to the stratification of society and increased inequality. Even before the February floods, property insurance was out of reach for many, and for example, since the floods, home prices in some high-risk areas in Lismore have more than halved, making it unrealistic for owners to sell it to buy property elsewhere.
It's confronting to tell the same story over and over again, and even just thinking about it now and what could have happened is really hard. I'm still floundering every day just to provide a roof over my daughter's head.
Hello, you're welcome to Climatechange Crusaders channel. please, we are encouraging you to subscribe to our channel, like and share for more insightful content.
My daughter's head. I don't have time to spend hours on the phone navigating flawed systems that shouldn't exist. I did not have a current lease agreement because it had flooded and I was evicted shortly after the flood. And I did not have any more photographs because I couldn't access it in the second flood. So asking for more proof of flooding while it was flooded felt ridiculous. I have never had more difficulty accessing any kind of government support than I have attempting to access the rental support payment.
As a way out, the state announces a policy of controlled retreat, but how soon this program will work and whether it will bring the expected effect is unknown. Details about the possible redemption or exchange of land have not yet been made public. Farmers' crops have been destroyed throughout the northern river basin, which means financial ruin for many families. People don't know what to expect. They feel abandoned and fear for their future, because the next flood will further worsen their deplorable situation. Also, because it will increase the number of those who need financial assistance.
We're coming up to 6 months. We're at the 171-day mark, and people are just losing the drive and all of that good community spirit that we had in that first 100 days to lift ourselves up is starting to dwindle. So we need action now.
Papua New Guinea. On September 11, 2022, a strong 7.6 magnitude earthquake occurred at the depth of about 90 kilometers near the city of Kainatu. Landslides caused by seismic events led to the casualties. Also, as a result of falling buildings or debris, many were injured. A hydroelectric power station was damaged, resulting in a complete blackout in several provinces. Earthquakes are often felt here, according to locals, but usually they don't last as long or as strong as this. On the same day, the tremors were felt by the citizens of Indonesia. 2 earthquakes in a row hit the Mentawai Islands. Buildings and roads were destroyed. Over 200 people were evacuated. In addition, heavy rains that hit the country led to flash floods on the island of Java. Overflowing rivers burst their banks, flooding the embankments as well as the streets of towns. In some areas, the flood reached the roofs of cars. Rescuers had to evacuate victims on boats. Unfortunately, conditions in modern society are such that the problem of predicting and eliminating the consequences of dangerous climatic events was and still has been the most difficult. Change is only possible when the value of human life comes first.
The Loire is the largest river in France, and it makes me very sad to see its dried up bed.
The Loire River. Its source is in the central mountain massif in the south of France. On its way across the country to the Atlantic Ocean, it takes in the waters of numerous tributaries. No other river in Europe can boast such a degree of habitation. All the towns that stand on the Loire have centuries of history. Despite the difficulties of navigation, it has long served as a major waterway. Trade on its banks has been going on for thousands of years, and it is no coincidence that the Loire was equipped with numerous bridges before other rivers of France.
I was born in Saint-Étienne in 1980 in the Loire department. I spent my whole childhood near the river, and my childhood was very happy. It was possible to transport coal on the river, and there were dyeing workshops here. It was important for our family, just as it was for the families of other workers. My grandmother and the women of that time went to wash their clothes on the banks of the Loire in summer and winter. And then came the water pipeline, and the banks of the Loire basically became a place of meeting and socializing. People would come here for a walk or to play pétanque. And then in 1955, they built a dam on the Loire, the Grandjean Dam. It's huge. Cars can cross it, and it produces an enormous amount of electricity.
In August 2022, river levels and runoff approached an all-time record low. The spring precipitation in France was 45% less than usual, and July was the driest on record since 1955. In some parts of the river, the water warmed up to 28 degrees. Like in the Mediterranean Sea, many branches of the Loire dried up completely. The resulting desolate landscapes shocked even locals accustomed to the occasional large shoals. Where they had recently been fishing in their boats, all that remained was crumbling, cracked earth or tiny puddles of algae and frogs.
The Loire is the largest river in France, and it makes me very sad to see its dried-up bed against the backdrop of the huge bridges that were built to cross the river. And so today I tell myself that if there is no more water, it will affect our energy consumption and change our lives. And I want my children and all of us to realize truly the changes that are coming, the climate, the water shortage. It's about time to make a change.
The water crisis is something that may become a reality in many countries in the near future. But there is another scenario for the situation. If mankind unites and builds the creative society, we will be able to extract water even from the air and even in the driest region. Today, mankind has all technologies capable of providing everyone with water and everything necessary, but unfortunately, in the current format of society, these technologies are not introduced on a mass scale.